We live in a world that has waged a war on silence. Look around you. We have constructed a reality where it is technically impossible to ever be truly alone. You carry a device in your pocket that connects you to billions of voices, billions of faces, and endless streams of thoughts that are not your own. You are plugged into a global nervous system that never sleeps, never pauses, and never shuts down. And yet, why does it feel like we are drifting further apart? Why is it that in the most connected era in human history, we are facing a pandemic, not of a virus, but of the soul, a pandemic of loneliness? You know the feeling I'm talking about. It's not just the absence of people. You can be in a crowded room, surrounded by friends, laughing at jokes, and still feel an invisible wall of glass separating you from everyone else. You can have 1,000 contacts, yet feel there is no one you can truly speak to. It is a dull ache in the chest, a quiet suspicion that you do not belong, that you are unseen, that if you were to disappear tomorrow, the noise of the world would continue uninterrupted, and no one would notice the silence you left behind. But what if I told you that this feeling, this loneliness, is not a defect? What if it is not a sign that you are broken or unlovable or socially inept? What if loneliness is actually a signal, a desperate call from your inner self, begging you to stop looking outward for what can only be found inward? 2,000 years ago, the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, lived in times of plague, war, and exile. They knew isolation intimately, yet they rarely spoke of loneliness as a suffering. They spoke of solitude as a fortress. They believed that we feel lonely not because we are physically alone, but because we have lost the ability to be friends with ourselves. We are terrified of our own company. Today, we are going to dismantle the modern architecture of loneliness. We are going to walk through the fire of isolation and see if we can transmute it into something else, something stronger. We will move from the pain of being alone to the power of solitude. This is not a quick fix. This is a reconstruction of the soul. Welcome to the journey. Let's begin with a hard truth. A truth that the French philosopher Blaise Pascal uttered in the 17th century, which haunts us even more today. He said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Think about that. When was the last time you sat in a room with no phone, no music, no book, no distraction, and just sat, just existed with your own thoughts? For most people, the mere thought of this induces anxiety. We are terrified of the silence. Why? Because in the silence, the distractions fade. And when the distractions fade, the truth emerges. In the silence, you have to face the questions you've been avoiding. Am I happy? Is this the life I wanted? Why do I feel this void? To avoid these questions, we run. We run into the arms of noise. We treat loneliness like a disease that needs to be cured by external validation. We post a photo, not to share a memory, but to ask the world, do you see me? Do I matter? We text people we don't even like just to see a notification pop up. We fill our calendars with events because an empty day feels like a judgment on our worth. The Stoics identified this thousands of years ago. They called it dependence on externals. Epictetus, the slave-turned-philosopher, taught that there are things within our control and things outside our control. When you tie your sense of worth, your sense of connection to things outside of your control, like the attention of others, the number of likes, or social invitations, you are enslaving yourself. You are handing the keys to your happiness to a crowd that is fickle, distracted, and often indifferent. Seneca warned us, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. When you fragment your attention across 1,000 digital connections, you lose the ability to forge a deep connection with the one person who will be with you from the moment of your birth until the moment of your death, yourself. Modern loneliness is essentially a form of self-abandonment. You are lonely because the person you're spending the most time with, you, is a stranger. You have ignored them. You have suppressed them. You have drowned their voice out with podcasts and playlists and superficial chatter. So naturally, when the noise stops and you are left alone with this stranger, it feels awkward. It feels empty. It feels lonely. But the diagnosis is clear. You don't need more people. You need to meet yourself. So how do we fix this? How do we stop running? We must first change how we view the concept of alone. The Stoics had a radical idea. You are never actually alone. Epictetus argued that even if you are in a desert, even if you are exiled to the furthest rock in the ocean, you are not alone. Why? Because you carry within you a spark of the divine reason, the Logos. You carry the capacity for thought, for wonder, for resilience. Epictetus asked his students, when you have shut your doors and darkened your room, remember never to say that you are alone. For God is within, and your genius is within. And what need have they of light to see what you are doing? This isn't necessarily about religion. It is about the recognition that your inner life is a bustling, rich, and expansive world. If your inner world is barren, then yes, being alone is terrifying. It's like being locked in an empty prison cell. But if your inner world is cultivated, if you fill it with philosophy, with art, with questions, with gratitude, with strength, then being alone is like entering a vast library or a beautiful garden. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man on earth. By all accounts, he should have been the most connected man alive. He had armies at his command, a court of flatterers, a family, and citizens who worshipped him. But read his meditations. You will find a man who was deeply, profoundly alone. He carried the weight of the empire on his shoulders. He was surrounded by people who wanted something from him, people who plotted against him, even a son who would eventually disappoint him. He wrote to himself, "The soul is a sphere." He didn't seek comfort in the crowd. He didn't complain that no one understood him, though surely no one did. Instead, he retreated into what he called his inner citadel. The inner citadel is the core of your character. It is the part of you that cannot be touched by external events or other people's opinions. Marcus realized that loneliness is a feeling of neediness. It is the feeling of needing the world to validate you. The Stoic flip is this: stop needing the world to understand you. Start understanding yourself. When you feel that pang of loneliness, do not reach for your phone. Do not reach for a drink. Instead, pause. Look at the feeling. Ask it, why are you here? What are you trying to tell me? Are you lonely because you lack company? Or are you lonely because you are bored with your own mind? Epictetus would tell us that we are like actors in a play. The playwright, nature or fate, has assigned us a role. Sometimes the role is the beloved friend surrounded by company. Sometimes the role is the solitary traveler. Our job is not to complain about the script. Our job is to play the role well. If this season of your life is one of isolation, do not waste it crying for the previous season. Accept it. Embrace it. Say, "This is my time for cultivation. This is my winter, and in the winter the roots grow deep." You are not being punished with loneliness. You are being gifted with space. And space is where freedom begins. But how do we turn that space into something useful? How do we move from the diagnosis to the cure? We must learn the critical difference between loneliness and solitude. And trust me, they are not the same thing. There is a profound distinction in the English language and in Stoic philosophy that we often overlook. It is the difference between loneliness and solitude. They look identical from the outside. In both cases, you are physically by yourself. But from the inside, they are different universes. Loneliness is passive. It is a state of suffering. It is the feeling that something is missing. It is the pain of being alone. Solitude is active. It is a state of meaningfulness. It is the glory of being alone. The Stoics viewed solitude not as an empty room, but as a workshop. This is where the work gets done. When you are in company, you are often performing. You are wearing a mask, the mask of the employee, the partner, the polite citizen. You are reacting to others. But in solitude, the mask comes off. You are free to examine your own mind without the distortion of other people's expectations. Seneca famously advised his friend Lucilius to retire into yourself as much as possible. He didn't mean run away from responsibility. He meant that you must build a relationship with yourself that is so strong, so interesting, that you no longer desperately crave the distraction of the crowd. Think of it this way. If you are bored when you are alone, it means you are in bad company. That is a harsh realization, but a necessary one. If you cannot sit with yourself for 30 minutes without reaching for a phone, it means you have not cultivated an inner life worthy of your attention. Solitude is the practice of becoming a person you actually want to hang out with. It is reading the books that expand your soul. It is journaling your darkest thoughts to understand them, not to suppress them. It is learning a skill, building a body, crafting a philosophy. Loneliness says, I am abandoned. Solitude says, I am preparing. When you make this shift, the pain evaporates. You stop looking at the empty chair across from you as a void. You start seeing the space around you as a canvas. You realize that some of the greatest minds in history, Newton, Beethoven, Nietzsche, Marcus Aurelius, did their greatest work in the quiet. They didn't just endure solitude, they used it. They sharpened their minds against the silence. So, the next time you find yourself alone on a Friday night, do not say, I am lonely. Say, I am in solitude. I am in the workshop, and I have work to do. But Stoicism offers us something even deeper than just productive solitude. It offers a cure for the existential feeling of disconnection. It is a concept called sympathia. The Stoics believed that the universe is a single living organism. Everything is connected to everything else. You are not an isolated entity cut off from the world. You are a limb of the world. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, we were born for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids. Even when you are physically alone in your room, you are still participating in the human experience. The air you breathe was exhaled by the forests. The food you eat was grown by hands you will never shake. The words you speak were invented by ancestors who have long turned to dust. The very sorrow you feel right now, it has been felt by millions before you and will be felt by millions after you. You are part of the hive. Loneliness often comes from the ego. It comes from thinking, I am the only one suffering this. No one understands me. That is an illusion of separation. When you zoom out, when you practice sympathia, you realize that your struggle is not unique. It is the human struggle. In your isolation, you are united with every other human being who is currently awake in the dark, wondering if they matter. This perspective shifts the focus from why me to we. You are never truly alone because you are woven into the fabric of existence. The Stoic accepts their role in the cosmos. Even if your role right now is to sit in silence, you are playing your part. You are holding your post. When you understand sympathia, the silence doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels full, full of life, full of connection to the whole. Philosophy is useless if it stays in the head. It must be applied. Here are 3 practical Stoic exercises you can use right now to transform loneliness into strength. Friedrich Nietzsche, heavily influenced by the Stoics, coined this term. It means not just bearing what is necessary, but loving it. Do not just tolerate your loneliness. Do not just get through the weekend. Embrace it. Tell yourself, this solitude is exactly what I need right now. The universe has cleared the room so I can focus. Stop wishing you were at the party. Stop wishing you were in a relationship. You are here. Love this. When you stop resisting the present moment, the tension dissolves. Sometimes we feel lonely because we take our relationships for granted, or we mourn ones we've lost. The Stoics practiced visualizing the loss of everything they loved. Close your eyes. Imagine, truly imagine, that everyone you know is gone. Imagine you are the last person on earth. Sit with that feeling. It is heavy. It is terrifying. Now open your eyes. Realize that you are not the last person on earth. Realize you still have a neighbor, a parent, a friend, or even a stranger at the coffee shop. By simulating total isolation, we learn to appreciate the micro-connections we have today. You will find that a simple hello from a cashier feels like a gift when you stop expecting a parade. Seneca said, "I never bring back home the same character that I took out with me. The crowd corrupts, the journal restores." Start a dialogue with yourself. Write down your thoughts. When you write, you split yourself into two, the writer and the reader. You become your own companion. Ask yourself on paper, why do I feel empty? What would a wise person do in this situation? Be kind to yourself in those pages. Become the friend you are looking for. Loneliness is a heavy coat to wear, I know. But you have the power to take it off, not by finding someone else to carry it for you, but by realizing you don't need it anymore. You have an inner citadel that no one can breach. You have a mind capable of infinite wonder. You have a connection to the cosmos that can never be severed. The next time the silence comes, do not run. Stay. Sit in the chair. Look into the mirror of your soul and simply say, "It is good to see you again." You are not alone. You never were.